Hello! I recently acquired a router and I thought a fun first project for it would be to make a router table. So yeah, let's have a go. I've actually acquired two at the same time. So never had a router before and now I've got two of them. My dad came to visit recently and gave me this one because he said he's had it for 10 years and never used it. So as well as that, a friend of mine has lent me this beast of a machine on long-term loan. Now I'm going to make the table to fit this one, the smaller version. This one takes the 1/4 inch bits, I suppose they're bits, aren't they, cutters? The 1/4 inch cutters as opposed to the 1/2 inch cutters on this one. So generally it would be assumed that the 1/2 inch cutters would be better, but my workshop runs off solar power, and the fact that this only draws 1000 watts as opposed to the 2000 from this one, I think this one will run slightly more happily on my setup. Plus I've got this one forever, and at some point this one is going to have to go back. If this proves too feeble mounted in the router table, I'll just adapt it and put this one in. So it's a bit as usual, it's a bit experimental as well. My initial plan was to build a router table, well, my initial plan was to buy a router table, and it turns out they're quite a lot of money for not a lot of stuff. So I thought I could make one. Then I thought I don't really have the space for a permanent setup for the router table, so I wanted something that I could get out and put away again. I'm not going to need to use a router very often, so it'll be set up like my table saw, for instance, where I have to pull it out, or the plate of thicknesser, I have to pull it out and set it up. It's a bit of a faff, but because I don't use it every day, that's fine, I can put up with that. I thought then I would use my workmate as the base for it. Now this is quite a nice workmate because it opens up really wide. This bit here, so this bit here comes off, it's got clips on it, so I can set it there, there or there. And I'm thinking, if I lock it into its widest opening like that, I can use this tabletop I got from an old desk that was no use anymore. And what I'm planning to do is make some framework on the bottom there, mount the router in the middle, sit it there, clamp it in the workmate. Easy peasy. I thought I'd give myself a head start then by buying a kit from eBay, one of these plates. And my first recommendation is don't bother. Don't bother buying one of these. I'll show you why. This is what came in the kit. It's a cast aluminium plate, and it's got some holes in it which are supposed to mount to the router, and then it's got, so the idea is that you route out a recess in the tabletop there, drop this in, screws in place, and the router bolts in from underneath. And then you have these little inserts which you can use depending on the size of the cutter that you've got in there, and that's intended to stop the work dropping in there. That makes sense. This cost about a tenner, £10–11, something like that. That wasn't really worth it. So this is literally straight out of the casting. There's no machining on it at all. It's got a sort of textured surface which isn't great for sliding wood over. But more concern, when I put an actual straight edge onto it, it rocks. So there's high spots around here. So in order for something like this to work, you need to cast it and then take it out. You need to mount it in something and then mill off the surface, make it flat, which they didn't bother to do, but you know, you get what you pay for. I think I could have done just as good a job of if I just cut out a piece of steel and machined up the inserts myself, but you know, there we go. I always live in hope that one of these bargain things from eBay might be a bargain. And in fairness, sometimes they are. I just bought some torches, some LED torches that came all the way from China for like £1 each, and they are brilliant. This is not though, but yeah, we can do something with it. First thing to do then is try and make the plate fit the router. There are mounting holes in here, and I think 2 of them will match the outer ones here. Anyway, let's see what I can do about it. Got a cutter in there. Set my compasses to match the difference between the midpoint and the holes here. Into there. Put that in there. So centre that hole. You probably can't see that, but I've scratched a circle all the way round, and I've now just made an arc going there. So where they intersect, that's where that hole needs to be. That can go in there, and that can go in there. There I was thinking I was going to have trouble proceeding with the selection of cutters that I've got, and the postman turned up with my new set. Splendid timing. The next thing to do then is to take the plate, trace it out on the top that I want to use, and then route out for that. So I've now got some cutters to choose from to make that happen. Right, before I go any further, I'm going to cut the tabletop down a bit, I reckon. I'm going to use a technique that I've just read about, but never tried, because I've not actually used a router before. And that's to cut the line by eye with a circular saw, and then true it up by putting a guide fence here and running the router along to clean up the edge. And this is an issue we've been having with the organ building of using a circular saw leaves too sort of vague a cut on the bigger sheets. Smaller stuff we can get through the table saw and it's nice and precise, but yeah, the circular saw has been a bit lacking with that. So I'm hoping with the router I might be able to use this technique and improve our sheet cutting, because we've got lots more organ building to do. Yeah, because it's nice and straight. So we want to slide it along like that. So I'm measuring from my pencil line, not from the edge. Now if I've got my sums right, I can now run this edge along there and clean that up. Next then is to route out an 8mm recess for that plate to go in, but before I do that I'm going to drill a hole where the middle is. sort of thing. Yeah. What I've done then is cut up one of those bits of bunk bed, and I'm going to put that behind there as a brace, and that will stop this top bowing. And then 2 offcuts from it are going to go one there and one there, and then the workmate here, this gap here, will clamp there. And then I've got another piece of the bunk bed, and I can use this on top. I'll cut it to the length of that, the overall length, and then this will be the fence on top. I brought this back piece in by 2 inches on each end to give the clamps room to get on here. Obviously this will be the other way up, so the clamp can get in there and clamp that fence no matter where the fence is. Because originally my plan was for 2 of these rails, but then I realised I wouldn't be able to get very good access to the router to fiddle about with the height settings and stuff, so I think this will suffice. This switch is a lock out, it doesn't lock in. You have to press the little button and then the big button to make it work. It won't lock on, so I'll tape it for now. Okay, I'll lock it in. That's now secured in place. It should mean that when I plug it in, it turns it on. Yep. So what we've got is something with a bearing on it, so I won't need a fence for this. I can push it against the bearing. It works. It works really well. It clamps nice and firm into the workmate. This piece then I can use as a fence on top. This is nice and straight. Get access to the underneath. I can just loosen off the workmate. can flip the thing like that, or all the way over, and then I've got full access to it, and I can change the cutter, I can mess about with the height, whatever. Time will tell then if this little setup is adequate for my needs, but I think it probably will be. I'm not going to be doing a lot of routing. Most of my woodwork, well, as you've seen, is more on the rustic side. I tend to prefer just hacking things out with logged and yeah, this kind of precision stuff. But it's nice to have the option. And like I say, for organ building, this is going to be quite a boon. And you can see I've just put a rounded edge on there to make a bit of skirting board. You might be wondering why I'm using such hefty wood for skirting board. Well, I've got to cut a rebate in the bottom here to accommodate a pipe. This is going to go in the bathroom. So I need a 15mm, room for a 15mm pipe to sit in there. So that'll be the next bit to do. Even if I was going with my plan of using this outside, it's still going to clog up with dust. I've got this little vacuum cleaner and I can just about manage to run this and the router through the solar system without overloading it, so I'll probably have to go with that. There's a quick method of fitting a dust extractor to this then. I've just used a Forstner bit and made a hole in the back of the fence, and when I put this bit of the vacuum cleaner on there, it protrudes very slightly on the bottom. What that means is, when I put the fence on and I clamp it down, that's gripped at the back. I hope that makes sense. Yes, much improved. So that's my skirting board done. I've rounded off the top and I've cut a rebate out for the plumbing pipe to go in. So there we have it, router table project, and the first project done on the router table. Calling that a win. Thanks for watching. Cheers.